On December 31st, 1922, in Rosewood, a predominantly black town in Florida, a sign is put up to inform the townspeople that a black man named John Bradley will auction a 5-acre land on January 1st. Sarah, the matriarch of the Carriers, bids goodbye to her music teacher's son, Sylvester, who's playing the piano, and his wife, Gertrude, as she leaves to go to the Taylors, the white couple in the white town of Sumner, who she works for as a housekeeper. Sarah travels by train to Sumner with young Arnett, who also works for the Taylors, and is bringing eggs he sells to the people they meet along the way. Mary, the second wife of a white grocer named John Wright, asks a young man named Big Baby to deliver breakfast to Wright, who is at his store. At the store, Wright is boning his young store clerk, Jewel, who is Sarah's niece. Damn, we can see John's jewels everywhere. When Big Baby arrives and calls Wright at the door, Wright hurriedly puts his pants on and awkwardly accepts the food. In Sumner, while hunting for a wild boar, a racist, fugly, wrinkly stank man named Duke orders his son, Emmett, to stay away from Arnett because he's black. Emmett contests that Arnett is his friend, but Duke hits him in the head. Duke got that morning breath at 10 p.m. look. Shortly after, Sheriff Ellis Walker and Deputy Earl drive by them, and Ellis asks Duke if he has seen a black man, informing him that a black man named Jesse Hunter has escaped. He asks Duke to surrender Jesse if he sees him instead of shooting him, but Earl prefers that Jesse gets shot. Arriving at the Taylor's residence, Sarah witnesses Fanny Taylor rejecting her husband James, who advances on Fanny's Fanny. James then leaves and heads to Cummer & Sons lumber mill, where he works. Big Mama was over her shift as fast as I was when clocking in at McDonald's. A mysterious man named Mann and his horse Booker T arrive in Rosewood, and Mann asks blacksmith Sam Carter to make Booker T's horseshoes. Don't get Booker T confused with the horse, although I'm sure both are hung like one. Sam informs him that he'll work on them the next day because he will close early since it's New Year's Eve. He asks him to put Booker T in the stable, promising to take care of him. Mann sees the land auction sign and enters Wright's store to ask him if he owns the land, but Wright tells him that he will own it the next day, hinting that he plans on buying it too. Mann asks Wright if he has 45 shells, and Wright, after seeing how much money he has, says he'll get him some. Look at Miss Homegirl looking excited about Mann having money. Just note that the actor Jon Voight once said that racism is now fixed and is a Trumpy. As Mann continues to explore Rosewood, Mann meets Sylvester's 17-year-old cousin, Scrappy. The Carriers invite Mann to join them in their New Year's Eve dinner, where Sylvester interviews him as he thinks that a man who travels without a particular destination is either selling something or running away from something. At the table, Sarah introduces Mann to her brother, James Carrier, his wife Emma, and their daughter Jewel. Sylvester then informs Scrappy that he confronted Henry Andrews, who is a wrinkly, ugly man, for catcalling her, prompting Sarah to warn him about the possible grave repercussions of confronting white folks as a black man. When Sylvester asks Sarah if he should have just let them whistle at Scrappy like it's not wrong, James Carrier says it isn't right and looks at Jewel, who is silent. Oh, James knows Miss Jewel over here canoodling with a whitey. After dinner, Sarah encourages Mann to settle and start a family in Rosewood. She tells him that black folks own all the land and businesses there, except for Wright's store, and that most of them are doing better than the white folks in Sumner. Meanwhile, Wright spanks his kids for being rude to their new mother. His last wife had died. At the New Year's Eve dance, Mann dances with Scrappy. The men ask the women to dance except Jewel. Oh, everyone knows Jewel is using Wright's jewels. The next day, January 1st, 1923, New Year's Day, Scrappy sees Mann getting nightmares about Call of Duty video games as he has PTSD. Mann picks up the 45 shells at Wright's store. Wright tells him that he's a veteran too, since he heard talks about Mann being a World War I veteran. While working at the Taylors, Sarah and a young black teen named Philomena hear Fanny squealing like a pig as she's getting railed by her lover in her bedroom. As her lover is getting dressed, she confronts him for cheating on her, prompting him to beat her up. After her lover leaves, Sarah runs after Philomena, who runs to check on Fanny, but Fanny asks her to leave. Meanwhile, Mann over here flirting with a 17-year-old Scrappy. Jail. Fanny's lover asks James and Emma Carrier's son, Aaron Carrier, if he's a traveling man, a phrase that Masons recognize, and he shows him his ring. Aaron brings him to fellow Mason Sam, who refuses to help because Fanny's lover is white, assuming that he is nothing but trouble. Unfortunately, since Aaron insists on helping Fanny's lover, Sam reluctantly helps him too. Mann, together with Sylvester, attends the auction facilitated by Henry and outbids Wright. Meanwhile, to Sarah's horror, as she and Philomena are scrubbing the Taylor's floor, Fanny heads out and hysterically screams for help, claiming that a black man broke into her house and beat her up, desperately creating an explanation for the bruises on her face and body. This motherfucker using them white women tears, all because she's a fucking whore. After Emmett reports the incident, Ellis and Earl quickly load their gun, and Ellis orders Earl to inform James Taylor. When Earl informs James Taylor and Henry, he falsely adds that a black man has forced himself into Fanny, prompting Henry to cancel the auction. Earl asks Mann if his name is Jesse Hunter, but Mann shows his discharge papers, proving that he is not. The townspeople gather around the hysterical Fanny, whose Fanny has been used up more than an OnlyFans star. And when Ellis asks her who forced himself into her, she clarifies that she was only beaten and describes the perpetrator as so big and black. Away from the townspeople, Ellis asks her to tell him the truth, but she maintains that it was a black man. After James Taylor arrives and carries Fanny inside their home, Ellis asks Sarah if she has seen the perpetrator, but she denies any knowledge about it. Philomena and Arnett inform Scrappy about what happened, telling her that Fanny's description is false as they saw that it was a cracker. Ellis's primary suspect is Jesse Hunter, and he leads a posse of white men aiming to catch him. Their hounds pick up a scent and lead them to Aaron, who they forcefully take and restrain. When Wright learns about this, he tells them that they got the wrong boy because Aaron is a good young man. While Wright reminds Ellis that the carriers are good people, Duke and the others urge Emmett to hold the rope binding Aaron and choke him. The posse talks about black folks' horrifying fate in their hands, prompting a scared Aaron to reveal that he and Sam helped a Mason because of their oath, which angers the posse as they don't understand what he means. Fortunately, Ellis successfully stops them from hanging him, and Wright settles the severely wounded Aaron in a cell. Later that night, Mann visits Sam, only to find him getting attacked by the posse because he denies knowing Jesse. Watching behind the grass, Mann hears one of the men suspecting him of being the perpetrator. After Ellis orders Sam to reveal where he drove the man, Duke shoots Sam, and the rest later shoot him further as he dangles from a tree. Although he tries to stop them, Ellis is overpowered by the raging posse. James Taylor informs Fanny that Sam has been lynched for giving the perpetrator a ride. A horrified Fanny tells him that there are things she ought to tell him, but they are interrupted by a group of women who are visiting to check on her. "Girl, if you don't open up about the truth, I'm gonna come there and slap your face into next year." Fanny sure loves all the sympathy she getting. Mann shows Sylvester Sam's corpse, and after they take him down, they gather everyone up in their church to inform them of what's going on and to come up with a plan on what to do when the Lynch posse shows up in Rosewood. Bradley suggests sending the women and children to Gainesville immediately, but James and Emma Carrier refuse to leave Aaron in jail, and Sylvester insists on defending their land and rights. Sylvester asks Mann for help as he's a veteran, but Mann refuses, saying he's not looking for another war. When the preacher suspects Mann, Mann wishes them luck and leaves, and Sarah says Mann is innocent. After Wright leaves, as the preacher has asked, Sarah reveals that the perpetrator was as white as mayonnaise. Wright calls Mann a coward, but Mann rides his horse. When Scrappy blocks his way and confronts him for leaving her, Mann tells her that if he stays, they'll hang him. He gives her his war medal for her to keep until he returns. Not this man basically saying he's not going to protect them until after she turned 18. The next day, as the posse grows in number, Scrappy asks Sarah to reveal what she knows, but Sarah tells her that for the white folks, being black is synonymous with being guilty. Mr. Bryce, the concerned white train conductor, tells Sarah that she and her folks should take the train to Gainesville, but she tells him that things have always been dangerous for them. Before the train leaves, he tells her to take care. "Oh, Mr. Bryce, a nice whitey. You best to hop on that man, Miss Sarah." Ellis asks Sylvester about Jesse, whom Sylvester denies knowing. Sylvester then tells him that if he wants to help, he should stop the posse. Do y'all recognize Ellis? He also played the racist character on The Walking Dead. He might be too good at this job. Sylvester purchases boxes of shotgun shells at Wright's, but Wright tells him that he needs to settle his account first. To settle his account, Sylvester angrily orders Jewel to leave the store and go home, which Wright fails to stop. Wright reprimands Sylvester for refusing to leave Rosewood, as it's not a smart decision. Sylvester then gives Wright money, saying it should be enough to settle his account, and takes the shells. Dang, yo boy Wright over here angry because he won't get to use his jewels on Jules for a while. Earl suggests that Sylvester is hiding Jesse as he hates whites, and the others agree, with one hating the fact that he has a piano. Later that night, as the Carriers celebrate Arnett's birthday, the posse arrives outside their home, demanding that Sylvester surrender Jesse. Duke then shoots the Carrier's dog, scaring the children inside. All right, they done fucked with the dog. Sylvester asks Sarah to stay away from the window and orders all the children to hide under the table. While he gets his gun, Sarah faces the posse, telling them that they don't know Jesse, And after she reveals that the perpetrator is a white man, one of the men shoots her. When Sylvester drags her back into the house, the posse barges in, forcing Sylvester to fire, killing 2 white men, one of which is Henry. After the posse retreats, Sylvester embraces Sarah, who dies in his arms. The posse heads to Wright's store to stack up shells. Upon learning that Sarah has been shot, Wright reprimands Ellis for letting them shoot an old woman. After Ellis informs him of the 2 white casualties, he asks him, "Where'd Sylvester get his ammunition?" prompting Wright to fall silent. Ellis then shakes his head as he leaves. Sylvester orders Gertrude and Scrappy to take the children to the swamp in the woods to hide, while he stays to face the posse when they return. He asks Big Baby to join them, but he insists on staying, saying he can shoot. Earl relays what has transpired to the judge, who then summons more armed men to join them, saying 3 white folks have died. The posse returns to the carriers, and after another shootout, they burn their house down. Upon seeing a body burning on the stairs, they assume that Sylvester is dead. When Ellis finds Sarah's corpse in a coffin, he orders the posse to bring her to the blacks' graveyard. James Taylor, who seems disheartened, says Sarah's death should not have happened, saying she worked for him and Fanny. Upon returning home, James Taylor informs Fanny about Sarah and Sylvester's death, prompting Fanny to break down and cry. He angrily tells Fanny that half of Rosewood is dead, but her attacker hasn't been found yet. This girl's Fanny done started this whole thing because her lying ass couldn't admit she a hoe bag. The next day, the news reaches the neighboring town, and a group of armed men spots and shoots at Mann, who retaliates. The men retreat and report to Duke and the posse, saying 15 armed blacks attacked them. As the posse leaves with them to retaliate, Ellis receives a call from the governor. At Rosewood, the whites hang and torture black men, forcing their children to watch. This is how racism is born. It is bred by inbred-looking ass folks. Wright, together with his eldest son Timothy, enters and locks his shop, where a weeping Bradley is hiding. Bradley begs him to hide him, informing him that his wife has been killed and that he doesn't know where his children are. Wright initially refuses because he's worried that the posse will burn his store, but after Bradley informs him that he can't because he's been shot and offers to pay him, Wright decides to hide him in the back storeroom and says they'll talk about his land's deed. At the border of Alachua County, an armed white group consisting of a sheriff and deputized men blocks the road and orders the posse to turn back, refusing to let their violence penetrate their town. When Duke says they're looking for a black fugitive named Jesse Hunter, the sheriff tells him that their blacks are law-abiding people. The group threatens to shoot, forcing the posse to turn back. Take note, this is how you be allies, not be passive. At Rosewood, the whites pose and take pictures with the burned black captives and continue to burn the blacks' houses and businesses. Earl and the rest of the posse make their way to the swamp, laughing about the fact that the blacks are scared and running like chickens. Ellis, however, doesn't share their excitement. They kill the preacher and ring the church's bell, which makes the preacher's children come out of hiding, as they believe that their father is telling them that it's safe to come home. Scrappy fails to stop them, but fortunately, before a member of the posse can pull the trigger on the children, who are horrified upon seeing their blazing town and hanged peers, Mann appears and guns down the white man. Duke teaches Emmett how to make a noose. Wright looks at Duke with disgust, as if Duke is a tub of sour cream that went bad. Meanwhile, Mann brings the children back to the swamp and reunites with Scrappy, who informs him that Sarah, Sylvester, and Big Baby are dead. Mann then orders Arnett to move the women and children deep into the swamp. The Wrights hide black folks in their residence, with Mary tending to their wounds. Mann arrives carrying a weak James carrier, with Emma and Jewel running close behind. While Wright turns them away, denying hiding blacks, James refuses to enter Wright's house, telling Wright that he knows about him and Jewel. Mary, who's watching them, tells Wright to let them in, but Jewel refuses to join them, saying she can't go in there. Then she bids her parents goodbye. Soon the posse arrives at the Wrights' house, looking to question James Carrier, as they believe that he was with Sylvester and Jesse. When Wright denies seeing him, Duke says they caught Jewel, so they know he's there. After they threaten to harm his family, Wright reluctantly agrees to bring him out because Ellis promised to only question him, a decision Mary heavily opposes. Armed for protection, Wright accompanies James Carrier as the posse questions him. With Sarah's corpse in front of them, James Taylor threatens to bury him with her if he doesn't reveal Jesse's whereabouts. When James Carrier asks why Sarah isn't buried yet, they mock and taunt him, ordering him to dig his own hole. When he tries to do so, they laugh at him and James Taylor pushes him to the ground. Ellis begs James Carrier to reveal Jesse's whereabouts, but he tells him that he's never met Jesse. Duke shoots James Carrier in the head and insults Wright for siding with the blacks, bringing up his dead wife and calling him a black lover. Duke looks like he don't brush teeth since he was born. Wright and Duke fight, prompting Ellis to intervene and order Wright to return home. The next day, as Wright walks home, he passes by Jules' corpse on the other side of the road, whose position and clothing suggests that someone might have forced himself into her. As Mann is stealing sustenance for the women and kids, he encounters Wright, who gives him more bullets. Creating an escape plan, Wright tells Mann and Scrappy to ride the train to the old road near Kelly's Pond, which is on the other side of Sumner, and talks to the Bryce brothers to arrange the train, informing them that Sarah is one of the casualties. Later that night, Duke makes Emmett look at the black corpses they've gathered and thrown in a hole, prompting Emmett to weep as he sees that babies are in there too. Duke slaps him and continues to try to brainwash him into hating blacks, but Emmett doesn't agree with him and runs away. "That's right, Emmett. Now just go ahead and shoot your fugly-ass father." Earl leads the posse to the Wrights' house to kill the blacks they've kept inside, but Mary asks them if they're willing to kill a white woman, and the Whiteys nope out of there so quick. After realizing that Arnett and Minnie are not with them, Mann goes to look for them. While Arnett and Minnie evade the roving posse and reunite with the group, the posse captures Mann. As Mann dangles from a tree, struggling to stay alive, Ellis realizes that things have gone too far, prompting him to tell James Taylor that all the people of color that they've executed are most likely innocent, as they both know that Fanny has been having affairs. Chuckles and "that woman is a wildcat" comment erupt from the posse, hinting that they know about Fanny's affairs. Now wait a damn minute. They knew this whole time Fanny's Fanny was sloppy, used up seconds, thirds, fifths, 300ths, and did all of this? Just used her white woman tears as an excuse to execute innocent people. While everybody is preoccupied with the fight between Ellis and James Taylor, Mann escapes. The posse catches on and shoots at Mann. Meanwhile, Ellis apologizes to James Taylor for the harsh truth, but he tells him that Fanny lied to everybody and admits not fully believing her from the start. The women and children successfully embark on the Bryce's train, barely evading the posse. Wright and Mann regrettably reject all black men who try to escape with them, as finding black men on board will result in the death of all the women and children. The posse shoots all the black men on the ground and at them, prompting Mann to retaliate from the train. Sylvester emerges with Booker T, shocking everybody. After Mann and Scrappy share a kiss, promising to reunite in Gainesville, Mann leaves with Sylvester. When Mann asks Sylvester how he escaped, Sylvester tells him that he hid in Sarah's coffin. Meanwhile, Wright reunites with his family. The next day, James Taylor returns home and beats Fanny for lying to him and cheating on him. Meanwhile, Emmett packs up and leaves Duke, tearfully telling him that he hates his ugly ass. In 1993, 7 decades subsequent to the tragic events, the Florida House of Representatives approves reparations for the families of Rosewood. This initiative is championed by Arnett Doctor, the son of Philomena. The success of this endeavor can be largely attributed to the sworn testimonies of several survivors, who were mere children at the time of the harrowing events, as well as to the deposition of a white citizen who testified on behalf of the victims. The official death toll of the Rosewood massacre, according to the state of Florida, is 8, which consists of 2 whites and 6 blacks. However, the survivors estimate the number of deaths to be anywhere between 40 and 150, with nearly all of them being African American. What did you guys think of this one? This was a hard watch, but oh so important, as this piece of history was almost completely lost. I'm glad John Singleton created a very harrowing and truthful story that will hopefully teach us to do better.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.